Morning, everyone. Thank you all for joining us this morning, bright and early on a Friday morning for the 2025 Minneapolis mayoral candidate debate. My name is Jake Loesch, and I have the honor of serving as Executive Director of the Citizens League. Citizens League is proud to be hosting today's debate in partnership with our friends at the Minneapolis Regional Chamber and the Minneapolis Downtown Council. I also want to take a moment this morning to thank CenterPoint Energy for sponsoring today's debate. Hosting events like this requires a lot of time and energy and resources, and we're deeply grateful for CenterPoint's support and sponsorship. And a special note of gratitude to the incredible staff here at Westminster Presbyterian Church for hosting us in this beautiful space and ensuring that everything about this morning's event ran smoothly. Thank you. For more than 73 years, our work at Citizens League has focused on empowering Minnesotans to be active in civic life and bringing people together across differences to find common ground and pragmatic public policy solutions. For those in the audience or watching online who aren't familiar, our work at Citizens League includes public policy research and hosting educational events that help Minnesotans develop a deeper understanding of the nuances of complex public policy issues. For the last 10 years, we've also run the Capital Pathways internship program, which connects BIPOC college students with host organizations working at the state capitol, providing Minnesota's next generation of leaders with real-world experience in the public policy arena. And earlier this year, we were especially proud to launch a first-in-the-nation effort to build trust and bipartisan relationships at the state legislature in a program called the Minnesota Legislative Exchange, a first-in-the-nation initiative that pairs up Republicans and Democrats in the state legislature and sends them on exchange trips to visit each other's districts and get to know communities that they call home. This program is all about bridging divides and building trust across the political aisle, 2 state legislators at a time, in order to effectively govern and solve our state's most pressing challenges. Citizens League has always been a convener of critical conversations, working to build a vibrant civic ecosystem for our state based on trust and mutual respect. And that's exactly what brings us here today. Minneapolis has been in the national headlines a lot recently for lots of good news and accolades, like its world-class park system, and just this week, ranked the best city in the country for people living with disabilities. But at the same time, the city faces significant challenges that we cannot ignore. 2025 was an especially difficult and heartbreaking summer for Minneapolis and the surrounding communities, and I want to acknowledge the deep pain and heartbreak that many are feeling. We're here this morning just about 1 month after the horrific shooting at Annunciation Catholic Church that took the lives of 2 innocent children and injured dozens of others. So before we proceed, please join me in a moment of silence to remember Fletcher and Harper and all of the children and families whose lives were forever changed and devastated by that tragedy. Thank you. Minneapolis isn't alone in facing big challenges, but let's not forget that those challenges also present incredible opportunities for us to rise above ugly political rhetoric and vitriol, to work together, to find common ground, to center community needs in our policy decisions and improve lives. As the state's largest city, what happens in Minneapolis and the decisions made by the city's elected leaders impact communities and people across this state. We're so grateful to these 5 candidates for joining us today, and we look forward to a substantive and thoughtful debate on the issues. Before we get started, just a few reminders. First, it's important for everyone watching today to remember that Minneapolis uses ranked choice voting for municipal elections. This means that voters are able to rank up to 3 choices for mayor: first, second, and third. So as you listen to the candidates today, be sure to think about how you might rank your choices when you vote. Early voting in Minneapolis began last Friday, so voters can cast their ballots anytime between now and Election Day on November 4th, and you have options to vote by mail, early in person, or on Election Day. For more information about ranked choice voting and Minneapolis elections, be sure to visit vote.minneapolismn.gov. And finally, for everyone here in the audience today, thank you so much for joining us. Please remember to model the behavior we all expect to see. Clapping and applause is a great way to show your support, but we ask that you be respectful and refrain from any attempts to disrupt or interrupt the debate. Everyone here in person and watching online deserves the opportunity to learn from a robust and candid conversation with the candidates. Without further ado, I'm honored to introduce the candidates and moderators from left to right, Reverend Dr. Dwayne Davis, State Senator Omar Fateh, Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey, Jazz Hampton, and Brenda Short. And our moderators this morning, to my left, Mary LaHammer, political reporter and anchor with Twin Cities PBS. And on the far side over there, Blois Olson, host of the Sunday Take on WCCO Radio and CEO of Fluence Media. Thank you very much, everyone. And Blois, I'll hand it to you.
Thanks, Jake. Thanks to you all for being here. Thank you for the candidates. This is going to be aired on WCCO Radio, and so just be mindful that it is being streamed live as well. We are downtown, and this question will go to Mayor Frey to begin. Office workers are starting to return, however, companies are using less space. We know that the energy of downtown is not what it was pre-pandemic. What can be done to ensure that downtown property values stabilize and that the traffic and energy that Minneapolis once had return to downtown Minneapolis?
The whole concept of remote or distance work was probably inevitable, but it got expedited by 5 to 8 years by COVID-19. And it's not going to be the cities that cling white-knuckled to what once was that are ultimately successful. It'll be those that embrace change that ultimately see success. So here's what we're going to do. First, we are converting commercial space to residential, focusing first on the pre-World War II buildings. That is already underway. Second, we are making sure that downtown is more of a playground, recognizing that it's not just a place where you come into work at 8 a.m. and leave at 5:30 p.m. It'll be a place of commerce. It'll be a place of restaurants and bars. And yes, also we will have access for pedestrian streets only, including on Nicollet Mall. Third, I was the council member of North Loop before it was the North Loop that it is today. One of the things that we did was break up space, not just having one large commercial space per street like a Barnes and Noble or a massive Sports Authority, but making sure that we have a variety of different small and locally owned businesses that are supported. To have that kind of vibrancy on the street, to have those additional doors on the street, not only brings more eyes so that safety is improved, but it also adds for a kind of street dynamic that is unparalleled. We have seen this in other cities. We have seen this in our own, and we can replicate that in the core of downtown. And at the same time, we need to be bringing people back to downtown, recognizing that a business culture is improved, opportunities for promotion are improved, and the city has a chance of truly succeeding when you have a whole lot of people in the space at the same time. Thank you so much.
Senator Fateh, what do you propose is a plan to bring workers back and stabilize the tax base of downtown?
Thanks so much for the question. The downtown that Mayor Frey inherited in 2017 is a dream compared to what we have right now. And he can blame it on COVID-19 or the aftermath of the George Floyd murder. But the reality is that this is all happening under his watch. Until now, we still have boarded up streets, and we have a mostly empty downtown. We could do a lot of different things right now. We can fill empty storefronts. We can convert offices to housing. We can't do all of them, but we can do a nice attempt and get a lot of them done. We can keep buses and workers flowing downtown. But one of the major issues we have is that we don't have a mayor that's willing to do so. We have a mayor that called our downtown workers saying that they're at home working, quote unquote, in nasty cat blankets and that they are losers. And so we need a mayor that dignifies all of our workers, value all of our workers, and to make sure that we actually have a plan for our workers and our working families.
Mayor Frey, Senator Fateh addressed you directly. You have a chance to respond.
Well, thank you. As mayor, you have to provide solutions. I will note that Senator Fateh did not provide a single solution that I did not previously state. You can reference a joke that I made that perhaps was not funny. That being said, as mayor, you got to do the hard work of leading. Yes, There's virtually every city throughout the country is dealing with the aftermath of COVID-19, and our city is coming back in fine form. We are seeing real results, and it's those kind of results over this kind of political rhetoric that ultimately you need as mayor.
Okay, we're going to get some others in, but Senator, you were addressed. What are you going to do that is different? That was what you were called out. What's not on Mayor Frey's list that you want to do? We will
Two things. We can actually fill the storefronts. That's not happening right now, the vacant storefronts. That's number one.
How do you do that?
Number two, well, we can have a commercial vacancy tax. I wanted to have also a land value tax at the state level, lobby for that to increase the revenue that we have in the city. There's multiple things we can do. But what I want to also address is that it is not a joke calling Minneapolis workers losers. And it's that same bullying tactics that we've seen not only with our residents, but with our city council members and community. And it has resulted in 2 terms of failures.
Okay.
Jazz Hampton, what would you do to bring vibrancy and return Minneapolis's downtown tax base to strength?
You know, to pretend like any of this isn't a chicken or the egg situation is disingenuous. So it's more than just bringing back the workers. I was talking to someone recently, a business owner downtown, and you know what they said to me? They said, you know what's better than having our workers downtown 3 days a week? Having more people living here 7 days a week. I used to live on 9th in Portland, right above that CVS, if you know, right when you exit downtown, that CVS left. And after that CVS left, the coffee shop that was across the street left. And my wife and I had just had our first daughter, and Penelope was born, and we didn't even have a coffee shop close enough to walk to. My wife also worked at Target at the time, and so her ability to walk to Target was something she loved. I just talked to another resident that said, I only look for jobs as a downtown resident that are in downtown. We can build up the corridor of small businesses that are around these residential opportunities and do much better in that space. That is the start of the process. We also have to reduce the wait times for permitting and for inspections in the process of building these buildings. I talked to a restaurant owner that said because of the length of time we had to wait, I'm now hesitant to open another restaurant in the city of Minneapolis.
Okay, let's get Brenda Short in here too on solutions, specific solutions for downtown.
First of all, we need to make it safe. Minneapolis as a whole is not safe, so we need to make sure that we have more safety in our downtown area because that is pushing our suburbs family away from our city. So I would suggest that making it more friendly, family friendly downtown and making more comfortable space like fireplaces and play areas for young children. But I am looking to do the most changing thing for downtown, and that's bring events such as, instead of Thanksgiving Eve, we watching the parade, we should be bringing the parade to downtown Minneapolis, bringing our children as front line, making each school perform in that parade, and then on New Year's Eve. Definitely, we should be doing a New Year's Eve downtown Minneapolis and dropping the Vikings ship. So we need to first make it safe for Minneapolis needs to make it safe for us. Then for those empty buildings, we need to invest in reaching out to big boxes to bring back the traffic. Because if we have stores on Nicollet Mall, thank you.
Reverend Davis, with same question on downtown revitalization.
Well, the first thing is one of the things we haven't really explained is that the biggest asset that we have is that we are the city. This is the economic engine of the entire state. You want to be here. Business wants to be here. You want to visit here. That's how you start. One of the most disheartening things that I felt, especially during the 2021 election, mayoral election, was the conversation about downtown. The rhetoric that was used was that this was a hellscape. Instead of saying what was good and promising in what we could do. So my point is, first of all, you start off there. This is where you want to be. This is a great asset. And we have a vibrant city that you will want to park yourself there.
And quickly, how? What?
Here's how. Once I do that, here's the thing. Smaller parcels, all those things, those are great ideas. But one thing I know in talking to small business, we have got to make it easy for people to step. Some small businesses don't think they could be downtown. They think it's already too expensive. But incentivize their location there, expedite reviews, expedite their processes so they can make it, they can get there, and then people can come bring the foot traffic to those small businesses.
Okay, next question. It's already come up. Public safety. It's on a lot of our minds. We've had mass shootings. We've had a lot of violence, vandalism, security. It's really tight here, you may have noticed, coming in and out. This is the world we live in today. Senator, I want you to take it up first because you've had anti-Muslim vandalism at your campaign headquarters. Talk about the response to that and also how you talk about public safety being tied to defunding the police at some point. Explain those two things.
Yeah, so our vision for public safety revolves around one, that when you call 911, you get the appropriate response, and you actually get a response, period. What do I mean by that? We don't need an armed officer to respond to every single call. We know that at the city, we had a report that showed that nearly half of 911 calls can be diverted away from police. That means alternatives to police, the BCR teams, the crisis response, the mental health workers. I worked really hard with my colleagues at the Capitol to bring in $19 million in public safety aid to help beef that up. But for a long time, it went largely untouched because we had a mayor that was having an adversarial relationship and disputes with city council and not able to get the job done and disperse the dollars in a way in which it was meant to be dispersed. We know that we can have a public safety system in which you get the call, you call 911, and you get the appropriate response, but every response does not require an armed officer. And right now, what we have is a system failure. There's been 5 years after the murder of George Floyd. The mayor promised a plan. There is still no plan. And so what we envision is which, yes, there are going to be police, but we're going to take some of their caseload off so that they can focus on violent crime, which is, by the way, what I heard at the Capitol, them come testifying, saying that we can't respond to every single call. We need help. We need alternatives to policing so that we can get some of our caseloads off so that we can respond to violent threats.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, I'd like you to take public safety next. You've been the spokesperson through massive tragedies, shootings, deaths. It's been a really brutal summer for the state and the city of Minneapolis. In the strong mayor system, what can you do with the police force, with the Hennepin County attorney? What are your new solutions?
So let's start where we agree. I believe in a comprehensive form of public safety where we are matching a unique skill set with the unique circumstances happening on the ground. And we are one of the few cities in the country that are carrying that out. We now have 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week mental health response. And I also believe that we need police officers, and we need far more than we have right now. We are presently increasing the number of officers that we have on the police force. We saw a 135% increase in applications, and the MPD is more diverse than it has ever been in history. And here's what we can do. Check out what we have seen on the north side. While violent crime is down in virtually every category citywide, on the north side, it is at near record lows. It is lower in terms of shootings than it has been at any time, at least since 2007. And how do we get there? First, we developed a partnership with our U.S. attorney, making sure that we were prosecuting some of these violent offenders.
What about county attorney?
Second, yes, our MPD works directly with the county attorney to make sure that cases go to her and are ultimately charged. Third, we work with community members, with grandmoms and moms to make sure that we're able to suss out violent situations before they arise. And what has that resulted in? Lower crime. And
how is that different? Because you said I'll start with where we agree. Where do you disagree?
Well, first, we disagree on police officers. While candidates may have changed their position over time, Senator Omar Fateh very clearly supported defunding and getting rid of police. I, through the most difficult of circumstances, have stood up and said that is not the right method now. That is not the right method, period.
Senator Fateh, Mayor Frey addressed you directly there. You have a chance to respond. Do you believe that the level of officers currently is enough? And would you keep the police budget the same, increase it, or decrease it as mayor?
Well, number one, it's the law. The charter requires over 700 officers. That's the law, number one. Number two, I want to address the comment made by the mayor, if that's okay. I supported question 2 in 2021, which would have created an Office of Public Safety that had a police department under it with alternatives as well.
Is that
Now,
defunding the police? Is that a fair depiction?
no, because number one, we have a charter amendment, we have a charter that shows how many officers we need. We have a budget based off of that. We increased the budget year after year since the murder of George Floyd. We never decreased the police budget. But we know that if we need to take off nearly half of the cases off of the caseloads for our officers, we need to beef up our public safety response, such as those alternatives.
Okay,
but that's a flat out lie.
Let's get Reverend in on this one. What are your solutions for public safety and violence and the really big uptick we've seen this summer in mass?
Yes.
shootings?
Well,
Yeah.
first of all, I will start. I reject any false dilemma that it is only either a warrior style police that is at every corner, making sure, like it is in DC with the National Guard, and defund. There are a lot of options and good options between those two extremes. But what I'm looking at is, again, I served on the community safety work group, and one of the things that we were looking for is not only a broad community public safety matrix, but all of those pieces working at full capacity, which means, by the way, violence interrupter where we have data collection, data management, data evaluation, setting outcomes, a behavioral crisis response that is fully expanded across all of the entire city. But also making sure we're under a court enforceable settlement agreement, making sure that not only as we get more police, that those reforms are embedded completely so that everybody trusts our police and that police can work in that matrix in every corner of the city.
Jazz Hampton, you're up next. You've talked about having your car stolen multiple times. Suburbanites say they're afraid to go home into the city, right? Carjackings get a lot of press, a lot of fear. Talk about personally, just like Senator Fateh had some personal interaction on this issue of public safety. Personally, how do you come at public safety differently in light of your experience?
Yeah, I believe that we have to take the amount of things off of the plates that we're currently asking officers to do. We haven't gone far enough in that work. The second is, just because we're saying we're working really hard to hire more police officers doesn't mean we're doing the best thing possible to hire more police officers, because I believe we have a deep need for more officers in this city. We have to have more, and we have to ask them to do less, so they're more likely to stay on this force, and we're more likely to recruit others from other cities to come and stay here. I've talked to other rural mayors that said, we have a great police force, and we have more that want to move up and out of our rural area.
What about car theft, specifically car theft and carjacking?
A part of the reason we have to expand the amount of officers we have right now is to have dedicated divisions. When windows are being smashed consistently, we have to have dedicated officers addressing spikes in crime that are unique to a specific area and type. And to that point, I want to be really clear on one other thing. I'm very happy that it is a safer city, and I believe that we do have a safe city. It's not unsafe for anyone watching outside of Minneapolis. But the superlatives, I think, are misleading. To say that gunshot wounds are doing better right now is not true. In the last 4 years here, compared to the 4 years prior to this current administration, the gunshot wounds are almost double on average per year. So the comparison is not accurate.
Let's let the mayor, you just took on some stats and his stance on some issues. Can you talk about gun violence that he addressed there in the last 4 years?
I can. We had significant spikes in 2021 and 2022, and that was a time when the perception matched the reality. We have seen dramatic reductions in gun violence and shootings over the last 2 years, and I will specifically call out the North Side. You can break these statistics in a number of different ways, but again, their shootings are lower than at any time since 2007.
But what about mass
month,
shootings? Because you've had to be
mass
the face
shootings,
of
we've
some
had,
horrific tragedies that have happened, and you're the person up there talking to the world about what's happening in Minneapolis and violence.
We have. Look, at Annunciation, it was one of the most horrific things that our city has ever experienced.
Right, and how do we stop that from happening again?
Well, how do we stop that from happening? We ban assault rifles. We ban high-capacity magazines, and if the state and the federal...
State, local, you can't locally.
We can't locally, but if the state or the federal government isn't willing to do it, we should have the ability in cities to do it ourselves. And I will note that in terms of the response, our officers were there in 4 minutes. They did not hesitate. They busted through the doors. They were looking for a potential second shooter at the same time they were looking for other explosives. They were tying a kid in a tourniquet
What about
at the
prevention?
same
That's
time.
after the fact.
That
Yeah.
is after the fact. How can we prevent mass shootings? The truth is that the work goes well beyond cities. It's got to be work with other jurisdictions. It's got to be work to prevent this gun violence from happening, from preventing guns that were literally designed to kill large numbers of people in a very short period of time from entering the city, and preventing people from getting them.
Brenda, how about public safety and solutions?
First of all, I believe to bring our city safe, we need our community and our officers to work together. Edina has done a great job building relationships with their officers and their community. They have a monthly meeting with their community. And first of all, we need to know who's in the street, and they need to know us. Second of all, both politicians have disrespected our officers. One says defund the police. Another officer disrespected the officers by offering a chief of police job to someone out of the state and replaced a female officer who was already transitioned into that space. So both of the politicians who's sitting here, you guys both disrespected our officers. And to bring our safety back to our streets, we need both community members and our peace officers. And I said peace officers because peace officers bring peace to our community, not chaos. Thank you.
I think rebuttal. Senator, you looks like you want to get in on that and saying that you disrespected police by defunding police. That was brought up.
Yeah, absolutely. And there is no disrespect on my end towards police officers in supporting question 2, which would have created an Office of Public Safety. That's number 1. And number 2, I think it was actually more respectful for them because they came to the Capitol asking for more help, more support, or more resources, saying that we can't address every single call. And so you talked about gun violence a little bit earlier. 2 things to that. Number 1, that is a symptom of poverty, one of the main reasons of that. And if we don't address our city's failure to provide an adequate social safety net for all of our communities, it's going to continue happening. And that's a failure on the city. Now, the main issue we have is that we have a mayor that created a toxic situation with city council and with communities by implying that if you're pro police accountability, you're anti-public safety. And that's flat out wrong.
Okay, rebuttal, Mr. Mayor.
Never once has that ever been said. So let's stop setting up these straw man arguments only to knock them down. I have said, notwithstanding Donald Trump, we are going to abide by every sentence of every paragraph of both the consent decree and the settlement agreement. And by the way, you don't need to take my word for it. The independent monitor stated that Minneapolis is making more progress towards a foundation of police reform than virtually any city in the country. So I stand by police reform. And just for the record, you don't need to take my word for it either. Look at what Senator Fateh said specifically, which I believe was about completely defunding police. You do not need to take my word for it. You can look at what his website previously said. It's widely available online. And so, in this case, as mayor, there are some moments when you need to stand up against something that is wrong, and there are moments when you need to stand for what is right. Sometimes it is hard, sometimes it does not respond with cheers, but you got to do the right thing all the same.
I want to stay on the topic of public safety because it's come up and it's obviously a very timely topic. You've brought up the chief, and we've talked about officer numbers. We'll start with a little quick lightning round. If elected mayor, do you keep Chief O'Hara? And if not, who do you replace Chief O'Hara with? Start with you, Brenda.
Yes, I would replace Chief O'Hara. And why is because he represents our city. He has made several statements negative about our city, and he has made no attempts to protect everyone, such as the shooting with the gentleman who was shot by a neighbor. It took him weeks and said he was not going to bum rush someone's house.
Let's go through
Keep
this
going.
quickly. Jazz, yeah?
Quick round.
What do you do? Quick round.
Yeah, I saw your interview yesterday about this. Actually, I am absolutely open to keeping Chief O'Hara, and what I expect is to hold him accountable to the level that I and the city believes is necessary. Some things I've seen have been troubling to me in the last several months, but it doesn't mean that the relationship is beyond repair. And frankly, I think that's something that's important right now in the city, working with folks, even if
And
you have
Mr.
those.
Mayor, you were called out for replacing a woman and bringing someone in out of state specifically too.
Chief O'Hara has my full support. I'm proud to have recruited him from Newark, where is a city where he was known for both reforming the police and driving down crime.
Okay, Senator?
I think it would be irresponsible for me to make that decision before the election.
Do you approve of the job he's doing right now?
I've had strong disagreements with the police chief, but I would have to meet with him, and I have to meet with the city council as well to come up with this.
Okay,
with the
Reverend,
decision.
on the chief?
Same thing. Everybody in the city enterprise will have to make a case for themselves. And if Chief O'Hara is going to be with me on my vision and where I want to go, sure, he has a good chance of staying on.
Let's keep the pace going. President Trump and the National Guard, would anybody support that?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
No.
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 That was a lightning
Follow-
round.
Follow up, similar lightning round. If there is a federal action within our city and there is public outcry and disturbances leading to civil unrest, when do you as mayor ask the police to manage local crowd control? Start with you, Brenda.
First of all, I would go out. I would be a woman enough to go out to the community to resolve the issue, unlike some person I know on the table. But I believe if the leader of the city comes to the community and meet them or have them at the table, we would not have this kind of chaos. Thank you.
Jess.
I am very much so in support of Minneapolis Minneapolis Police Department going and being present, because I want to ensure they're doing the job we all hope they are, which is protecting our residents. My belief is, whether it's what happened at Lake and Bloomington or another federal action of that nature, your job is to be there. We just want to make sure that your boots are pointed in the correct direction. The job is to protect the city in that moment.
Mayor?
The Minneapolis Police Department responds to calls for help. They keep people safe during all circumstances. And so when there's a 911 call saying someone is getting kidnapped, or there's property being damaged, or there's an ambulance that needs to get escorted, yes, police officers must respond. And so to say that there is a whole scenario where officers just will stand by 2 blocks away and do nothing does not make sense. As to the question, where was I during the Lake and Bloomington raid? The answer is doing my job. And the best practices say that we need to first get information. I was sitting with my cabinet, making sure that we were able to disseminate information as quickly as we knew what was happening, and I was able to direct a city enterprise.
Okay.
That's part of the job of being mayor.
Senator?
The reality is that MPD was at Lake and Bloomington during the raid on June 3rd, before and during the raid. That's the fact. No, I would not support MPD collaborating or partnering with ICE at any level, including through crowd control. If the federal government comes in and makes the mess, they have to clean up that mess. That's number one. Number two, the biggest damage and the biggest issue we had is that we had the administration leave our city council members in the dark, leave our community organizations in the dark. But we can't have a mayor that claims he's going to protect our communities from Donald Trump when he uses the exact same militarized responses on our encampments and our unhoused neighbors.
If I want to follow up, Senator Fateh. If citizens are interfering and attacking federal law officers, what is the role of the city police force?
Citizens were not attacking law officers on June 3rd.
There is video
Number
of
one.
citizens attacking federal law enforcement.
Number two, the reason why we saw such heightened anxiety and such a chaotic response by our residents is because they were left in the dark by our leaders. That's the reality. When city council is not informed about what's happening and they are the direct ties to community, of course, we're going to have a situation in which community shows up and shows up for one another and tries to protect one
I
another.
think we need a rebuttal. We'll get to
Yes,
Davis
and
as well.
I was there on Lake in Bloomington, and to the extent that those officers, those federal officers, put hands on protesters because they did first. They moved them out of the way. So whatever video you saw, what you did not see was that they were being very rough. I sat there watching, observing it. So that is the first thing we need to know, what actually happened. But the second thing I want us to understand too is that if there is civil unrest, this is the key. We follow the local protocols in our relationship with our state and our National Guard. We do not forfeit our responsibility in our local. This is what federalism requires. And so our resistance to the federal administration is that we follow the local protocols here. And when we are not allowed to do that, we are aggressively resisting it through the courts and through as loudly as possible telling you, the citizens, why we did that.
Okay.
That's the key.
Mr. Mayor, rebuttal, because the senator said you're using the same techniques as President Trump.
Look, we've made very clear, we will not coordinate with, we will not work with any federal agency, including ICE, on immigration enforcement work, period. And because we won't coordinate with them, they won't tell us when we're coming in, which was the case at Lake and Bloomington. And because they don't tell us when they're coming in, it does take us a bit of time to figure out exactly what is happening and to be able to disseminate the right information.
Okay, I think
we don't want to tell people
change
something that is incorrect. We want to tell them what's right.
Minneapolis cannot by itself be successful without traffic from the broader region, including visitors to Target Field, our theaters, our museums. Not in addition to safety, just in general, there has been a resistance to folks coming downtown, coming to other parts of our city. I'll start with you, Dwayne Davis. How do you ensure that the city recruits and attracts people from outside, from conventions, et cetera? And I'd also like to say that the Timberwolves have suggested they need a new arena.
Mm-hmm.
What is the city's role in developing that arena or supporting the assets from theaters to museums that we already have?
Well, thank you for that question. And this is, I've said in an earlier answer that we are the economic hub and engine of this state. If we are not doing well, greater Minnesota will not do well. And we need to be clear about that. And we need to lean in with our whole chest on that. But this is also a whole of government, multi-government effort, meaning we need leadership that has very trusting, deep relationships, not only with the city council, but with the Hennepin Board of County Commissioners, the Minneapolis area delegation in the state legislature, and we need a very, very aggressive intergovernmental relations department that is seeking out opportunities to make sure that not only are we investing in the city, but this goes to this whole point. This cannot be done alone. This is not a standalone thing. This also cannot be done with the mayor having only selective relationships with big developers or big donors. A whole of government, all hands on deck effort where we are working together, we are building, trusting. And here's another, I have to say this too. There's sometimes though, where we're going to have to go it alone. Sometimes I feel that in our
like
work—
when? Give an instance.
I'll
Go
give
it
you an
alone
instance.
on what?
We are part of the League of Minnesota Cities. And sometimes I think we forfeit our right as the biggest city and the largest city and the economic engine to say, here's what we need. And it may not look like what you need. I've seen that way too often, especially when I've seen them at the state legislature.
Okay, let's
what we have
talk
to
state
do.
legislature. We have one at the table. Senator, what about attracting, bringing people in arts, entertainment to the city?
Absolutely. I think, as the Reverend mentioned, it's going to take a cross-jurisdictional approach. We cannot do it alone. We need to partner with our city council, with our county commissioners, and with our state legislators, especially our Minneapolis delegation. And right now, we have a mayor that doesn't have a good relationship with all three. He has a hostile relationship with our city council, doesn't work well with our county commissioners, and doesn't work well with our Minneapolis delegation, which is why with our county commissioners and our Minneapolis delegation, he doesn't have a single endorsement. And that speaks volumes about a mayor that has 2 terms. No, but I want to get to what I will do also. What I will do is make sure that we are attracting people by making our city more and downtown more bikeable, walkable, transit-friendly, bus-friendly, not eliminating bus routes, making sure that we're attracting more local businesses. And the idea that we're going to invest in a new arena for the Timberwolves is outrageous. Every dollar we give away to billionaires
So you won't
is
be asking
dollars.
the legislature for help on that?
Absolutely not, because every dollar we give away, whether it's city or state, to billionaires,
Boy,
is
some of
dollars away from basic services.
Senator Fate, several of you have brought up the relationship between the mayor and the city council. One word answer. Do you believe the city council has always been fair to the mayor?
Yes.
Mayor Frey, what would you do to increase traffic and revitalization of our entertainment assets?
So first, if the city council has always been fair to me, then we all have a lot of work to be done. We need a civility in political discourse. We need to be able to talk to each other with respect. Yes, there are moments when we disagree, and I will not abdicate my responsibility to do the right thing for the city. And all the same, we can find opportunities to work together in good faith. One of those areas is around downtown. So you may have seen just yesterday it was announced that we hit a record in terms of hotel stays. You may have seen just a couple weeks ago Dinner du Nord, which had 2,038 people, seats all along Nicollet where they were eating. You may have seen that Diane's Place was recognized as the best restaurant in the entire country. These are things that we can highlight. Are we there yet? No, we are not. But downtown is going through rejuvenation, and every single one of us can get behind it to make sure that it is bolstered even further.
What about stadium? The senator said he would not support the legislature helping out on the stadium. Do you want, it's probably a bonding bill, probably a supermajority. That's a heavy, heavy lift. How are your relationships with the state legislature, and should they play a role in that?
Well, everybody should play a role in it, but does that mean public subsidy? No. Everybody should make sure that we're partnering directly with the Timberwolves because, look, they're an awesome team and a massive asset to downtown Minneapolis, and we are already, by the way, doing the work necessary to work with them to find a parcel, to see through what could very well be a new arena, and to make sure that we're doing it in partnership ultimately with community and everybody else that's a stakeholder.
Jazz, what's your specific plan for revitalizing our entertainment assets and ensuring the Timberwolves stay in the city of Minneapolis?
What do I do to ensure that the Minnesota Lynx stay in Minneapolis?
They are the only basketball team with a championship. We should probably out the wall.
I think we do have to partner deeply because that's our winningest team. And to that point, I do not believe that the city taxpayers, the city of Minneapolis, should be subsidizing any additional building of a building that was just revitalized in 2017. I don't think it is a good use of our tax dollars, especially when I think of my 3 children being in our Minneapolis public schools and the work that we need to put in other places rather than into a stadium that was just revitalized. To the point of revitalizing downtown generally, we have 10,000 hotel rooms that need to be filled day in and day out. And when people are looking at conferences and places to go, they look at our park system and they see great things that they can come here for, but they're worried about the affordability of coming into the city. We need to show more folks from outside of the Twin Cities, if they're gonna come here, it's more affordable than Las Vegas or other locations. And we also need to ensure that they feel safe when they're doing that. The perception that the people have of our city, I believe, is misguided. I believe it is safe. We need to show them more directly. And frankly, in my opinion, we can do a lot of work on that with our partners that are already working in downtown to do that revitalization.
Brenda Short, what's your role as mayor in ensuring that our assets are state-of-the-art and attractive to conventions and or sports franchises?
Thank you for asking. First of all, I would start making some of those empty office spaces into creative suite. We need to go with the times where our youth are investing in making YouTube videos and need those spaces and making it affordable for them, because that will bring in some of the suburbs children and saying, hey, this is a space and it's fast I can get into. Second of all, we need to link up with Groupon and make our out-of-state people have a wonderful experience with Minneapolis, because we have great things like the trolley that goes downtown, and I do the carriage ride every year on Christmas Eve. There is wonderful things. We just need to make those experiences known to our suburban people and outside of our states. If we start putting our landlights, such as the trolley, knowing the history about Minneapolis, we will bring those people back.
Okay.
Thank you.
Related question. This is about the commercial tax base in downtown. Mr. Mayor, I'd like you to do this one first. There is a new documentary coming out that's going to be airing on statewide television called Precarious State. It paints a very dire portrait of vacancies, the future. And you do know when the commercial tax base shrinks, then it goes on to the property taxpayers. So can you talk about that? Because the entire state's going to see this documentary, and it talks about horrific vacancy rates.
Oh, I can't talk about the documentary that I haven't seen yet, but what I can say is that we, like virtually every city throughout the country, has seen a devaluation of commercial space as a result of distance or remote work. When a building sells for 40 cents on the dollar, the valuation drops, the taxes we're able to generate drop along with it, and there's residents throughout the city that have to pick up the tab for it.
Is it realistic to grow or get that base back, or do you have to change everything because businesses may not come back?
It's a combination, both of changing, yes, and getting it back. It will be both. We are seeing businesses that are coming back every single week, Target being one recent example. We are seeing the numbers go up virtually every month in terms of the number of offices, businesses that are locating their employees downtown. And there will need to be substantial changes. Part of that is a transition of commercial to residential. And we're focusing first on the pre-World War II buildings, because those are the buildings where you can
You mentioned
open
that
the
before,
window.
but what about the property taxpayers? Do you have to cut other parts of government to take that burden off the property
You
tax?
got to be efficient with your tax dollars. And my pitch, and I said this during the last budget, is we have to focus on core city services first. Picking up the trash and the recycling.
So what extra things may you not be able to do if you have to make
there's
cuts?
a number of things that we had to cut in this last budget. These were hard decisions. We had to eliminate positions, oftentimes that were vacant. We had to look and take a deep dive on programs that may have been effective 10 years ago, but aren't as much so
And are more
now.
cuts identified if you are reelected?
Well, I can't tell you what exactly is identified until we know the economic state at the time. But look, there are hard decisions that can be made. We can't both pretend that we're going to be substantially reducing the tax burden and simultaneously not looking at additional source of revenues and not looking at where cuts need to be made.
Okay, Senator, can you talk about that shrinking commercial tax base and what you will do about it?
Absolutely, and we've seen a major example of that with, I believe it was the Ameriprise building that was valued at $297 million and sold for $3 million. And so we're headed towards the wrong direction. We can do a number of things. We can have a vacancy tax on empty storefronts. I would like to partner with the state legislature to have a local option tax so that the wealthiest in our city can pay their fair share so that we can address.
Would a divided legislature support that?
No, but I'll do my part as mayor to also go out and ensure we have a trifecta. Our job isn't only to legislate, but it's to legislate, educate members on the community on what's been passed, but also going out there and partnering with the county and with the state to make sure we get the job done.
And how about the property tax burden, how that shifts to property taxpayers?
A couple of things to that also, and I was going to get to that. And a couple of things to that is, yes, we need to convert some of the spaces into residential. We need to make sure that we're doing things like fighting wage theft, which takes away from workers' pockets in which they pay their taxes, in which they spend their dollars. And which, by the way, the mayor wanted to cut the co-enforcement contracts in half. That's horrific. Now we also got to be very responsible.
But what about cuts? Do you acknowledge that cuts would have to happen to try and help taxpayers?
Well, we have to be responsible first with the dollars that we have. We can't do things like spending tens of millions of dollars on police settlements. I think that's irresponsible when we can have a mayor that can hold our officers and our law enforcement accountable, partnering with them to get that done. But also, the mayor in his latest budget wants to have 15% of our workers in the city auditor's office cut in a time in which we need our watchdog, in a time in which we have an office that does not report to the mayor or city council. We need that spot more than ever.
Let's go, Reverend.
Yes. Again, I often tell you, remember, we are in a transition period, and it's going to require, again, I can't say it enough, whole of government, multi-jurisdictional response. What I mean by that, you remember, some of you are old enough to remember that we had car dealerships downtown. And what shifted was, we know that we were building up the suburbs, and car dealerships moved out because there was more space, and then people had to drive. And then we began to rely on commercial office space, and that's what built up that base. And then we relied upon it. We are in a position now where we're going to have to rethink how we do all of that. And it requires more than some of the old language, the old ways of thinking about taxes. It's about being multi-jurisdictional. And then that property tax burden. Here's the thing too. Yes, there are going to have to be priorities, but this is what has required the city government, especially a mayor, to tell people what the priority is going to be. For instance, perhaps if we told people that we need to appropriate a certain amount of dollars and resources to deal with homelessness and encampments, I believe our residents will say, I will give you a chance to do that.
We will get to that topic. I promise. It's on the list.
And the same thing, again, we don't want you to spend $70 million in payouts for police misconduct. Get that reform embedded so that then we can take that burden off you. If you tell residents that, I think they'll go with you.
Jazz Hampton, what do we do to make sure that there's not a growing burden on homeowners and renters because of residential property taxes?
The first thing we need to do, I teach an entrepreneurial finance class at St. Thomas, and I run my own business. I look at a P&L, a profit and loss statement every day. And what I do is say, hey, if we're allocating this much to marketing, how many new clients do we receive? Did the dollars work well? And if they didn't work well, what are you going to change in the marketing department? Because I won't just give you an additional $10 million in this moment. That is not how you use dollars and how you spend them. And that's the opportunity we have within the city. So when we talk about where are we going to start removing from and where are we going to start cutting from, it's where we aren't being efficient with our dollars in the first place. That is the wise thing to do with the money that we have. And when we talk about where cuts are coming from or the core services, when my car was stolen the other day, the 911, when I called 911, it rang for 2 minutes before someone answered. I've been talking with people that work in that department, and what I'm hearing is we're short-staffed, and the one open position that was available, I was told, isn't even open anymore. It's been cut from the budget right now. When people are working 12-hour shifts and working overtime, fielding some of the most traumatic calls that you could be happening within the city. These are the things that we need to prioritize our dollars for.
Brenda Short, how do you make sure that the burden doesn't fall on residential and renters in their property taxes?
Well, I would first reach out to the small businesses that had to close their doors, such as the businesses in Uptown and a landmark, the Palmers. They were forced out. I would offer them shared space. There's a lot of shared space with multiple restaurants or multiple businesses. We need to start sharing those spaces downtown to bring the people who we loved in our city back to a great place downtown so they can shine, because I miss Palmer's. I don't know about y'all, but I love that little place. But that is what we need to do, is start bringing our old businesses that used to be here back downtown where they have foot pedals. Thank you.
We're going to switch topics now. The next topic is homelessness and encampments. We're going to start with you, Senator Fateh, on this question. The city has been struggling to manage these homeless encampments. First question is, are encampments acceptable? And what do you do to ensure that encampments do not continue to proliferate in our city?
Very good question. Number one, none of the challengers on the stage right now want encampments to persist. It is unfair for our unhoused neighbors, and it's unfair for our residents. That's number one. But we need to deal with it in a humane and compassionate way. And what we know is that bulldozing our neighbors block by block does not put them into housing. throwing away their belongings, their key identifiers, their social security cards, their IDs. That does not help. Just last week, what we saw with the bulldozing and the removal of the encampment on Lake Street is that we saw that a mother lost the ashes of her child. The mayor's staff threw the ashes away of the mother's child. I think that's heartbreaking, that's devastating, and that came less than 24 hours after a traumatic shooting in which 13 of their fellow unhoused neighbors were shot.
So how do you deal with it?
How do I deal with that? Number one, a couple of things. Number one, first, we see the approach that our administration is taking by moving our homelessness response out of public health. I'm responding.
With all due respect,
moving it back.
with all due respect,
yes.
we want to cover as many topics as possible.
Correct.
I specifically asked, how would you deal with it differently?
And I'm saying exactly that, moving it back out of regulatory services into public health, because we need a public health approach. And what we know is that in these encampments, we have a spread of infectious diseases like hepatitis, syphilis, HIV. This is a public health emergency.
What about
we need
the
to take a
public
housing
safety
first.
issues that are happening in the encampments?
Well,
How
there's
do you address that part?
yeah, well, just like there's gun violence in our encampments, just like there's gun violence issues in our schools that we've seen, within our public spaces. Nowhere is safe, and that's a symptom of poverty. But it's easy just to blame it on the encampments because they can't defend themselves. Now, we need to take a housing-first approach. We need to connect people to housing, and I've spoken to people on the ground. The city is not doing a good faith effort in connecting people to resources. We need to make sure that we are addressing it cross-jurisdictionally with our county and with our state.
Let's hear from the head of the city. You just took him on a lot of those issues.
And I've had the experience bringing in millions of dollars
Okay.
myself as a chief author to Simpson, to Agate, and to Avivo.
Mr. Mayor, you were criticized roundly for how you handled the encampment and the reaction to it.
Senator Fate mentioned taking a public health approach. This was, in fact, a public health emergency and a nuisance that ultimately resulted in 7 people getting shot. As to a housing-first approach, I believe that housing is a right. Everyone should have a safe place to go home to at the end of the night, to rest their head on the pillow and to rejuvenate for the next day. And Minneapolis is doing more than virtually any city in the country.
What about, he said your approach was inhumane in how the encampment was cleared with bulldozers and what happened to people there.
Let's talk about how we handle encampments. First, we go out to visit the encampment and we provide social services. We partner extensively with the county and other jurisdictions. We provide social service support. We offer shelter, oftentimes housing. We even bring a mobile medical unit out to the encampment to make sure that there's things like wound care and health services that are right there on site. And yes, when an encampment is dangerous, in fact, encampments, period, are not safe. They are not safe for the people living there. They are not safe for the people in the surrounding neighborhood.
Do you want no encampments? Would you take that stance that there should be no encampments?
We should not have encampments in the city of Minneapolis. And what we should be doing is connecting people to homes. We have provided 8.5 times the amount of deeply affordable homes since before I took office. 8.5 times. And just so we're clear, deeply affordable means 30% of area median income and below.
Okay. You're out of time. So, Jazz Hampton, what's your approach on encampments? How do you ensure they don't proliferate?
First, I believe this is like chopping down a tree. You approach and you say, here are the solutions, here are the services, and you take a by name approach. That means if there's 38 people in an encampment on the north side, you say, hi, I'm Jazz, what's your name? Cindy, nice to meet you. I'd like to learn about the services and needs that you need, that we can provide in this moment. And you do it again and again and again. To say the sentence, we tried and they didn't accept it, so we're sweeping, I don't know how many times we've tried. We have to do it in every chop. You don't know which one's going to do the work, but eventually that tree will fall. And that's the approach that we need to take within this city. No, I do not think encampments should exist. I absolutely do not. It's our job. It's incumbent upon the mayor in this city to ensure that for the residents that are in that encampment, for the neighbors next to it, and for the businesses as well, or for the child that gets hurt. And if I could address one thing, I'm a lawyer, and so when numbers or evidence is given, I want to go look at it. And when we say 8.5 times, I've looked up that number multiple times when we say that. And all that I have seen is that meant that we went from 85 deeply affordable units on average to 296. that we need a lot more than 296 per year. So that the 8.5 times number, while it's good, but if you're multiplying 35 affordable units by 8.5 times, that is not even close to enough.
Dwayne Davis is eager to get in.
I am eager to get in. I'm glad to hear the mayor say that he doesn't want encampments, but if you don't want encampments, then you're going to have to do something very different than what you're doing. You simply cannot react when an encampment comes up. Our homelessness response team is woefully inadequate for someone who says that they don't want encampments, meaning before an encampment even gets to these sizes where it is a roving criminal band, you need to have people on the ground so that even when you see one tent, you have deployed people that are already
What kind of people?
depopulated.
What solutions?
We have only 4 people, I think 4 or 5 last time I checked, in homeless response in the regulatory service. It obviously isn't enough. We need more people in that office. We need a plan. We now do not have a plan. The response we're getting is a reaction. That isn't a policy. That isn't a plan. Fill that office, appropriate the dollars, use the $330,000 or $400,000 you use per sweep, and use that to build a homeless response office and team that is equal to the task and can do it.
Dwayne, you said these are roving criminal enterprises. Should the police intervene when an encampment gets started?
No, so here's the point. If you have an encampment with 100 people, yes, there's no choice. I'm trying to say, stop. Don't let it get to the point where you have these criminals out there.
You would favor using law enforcement to break up encampments when they get started?
I would, if someone is shooting in an encampment, I want the police there.
You said when they start.
No, start meaning if you see 2 people in an encampment, get our homelessness response team out there so that you can depopulate it.
Mr. Mayor, radio audience can't see you shaking your head no, so tell us why you're shaking your head no.
Well, first, look, there's multiple candidates up here that have literally said that they will not clear encampments, period. That is problematic. One, I'm the one that gets the briefings that there is a 12-year-old girl that is getting human trafficked. I'm the one that gets the briefing that a retaliation through gun violence is about to take place. And as for the work that we're doing, we are one of the only cities in the country that is seeing a substantial reduction in unsheltered homelessness, over 33%. That work is not easy. This work is complex. So you can come forward with a catchphrase or a simple solution. The truth is that it doesn't exist. We are doing the hard work to drive down homelessness and unsheltered homelessness, and we need to keep that going.
Can you talk about homelessness and encampments and your solutions?
First of all, I'm the only one on this panel who has been unhoused in the streets of Minneapolis. I have a plan. I have a plan. So first, we need to stop those buses from out of state bringing their unhoused neighbors into our community, because don't say that does not happen, sir. I live on East Lake Street, and I see it twice a week, and I'm out there feeding the unhoused. But my plan is there is a nursing home in South Minneapolis who has been empty for over 2 years. It houses a minimum of 250 people, but we can force 300 and take that facility. Because it's 3 levels, we can take that facility, bring in the sources into that building, such as a clinic and programs such as PPL, Summit Academy, so they don't have to be roaming the streets during the day. They can be trained Monday through Friday so they can get a job. And then my second level is take those abandoned houses, repair them, so it can be good and fit for our unhoused neighbors. So once they get a job, they transitioning into our the housing.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Yep. Let's do a quick round down the line here. From housing to rent control, we've seen St. Paul do it. Rent control in Minneapolis, yes or no? Down the line.
No.
Yes.
No.
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 Okay, but we got one yes. Explain the
There we go.
yes, Senator.
Senator Fate, explain why you would support rent
why
control.
yes, and
how,
do you think it worked in St.
and
Paul?
how it would be different
Yeah.
than St. Paul, or not have the same impact?
Did Brenda
Senator
respond?
Fate?
I don't think, did Brenda respond?
Senator.
Okay, good. Okay, good. Yes, I do support a strong policy. In 2021, what we know is that the voters at the polls overwhelmingly supported us advancing and exploring the opportunity for our city to advance it. That's number one. Number two,
How
I think
different from St. Paul? It's been
yes, and I think
roundly criticized. in
yes,
St.
absolutely.
Paul.
And I think we have a lot of opportunities to learn from St. Paul, including what exemptions can we put into place, and that includes having exemptions that can incentivize good behavior. If you want to qualify for an exemption, then you got to have this many affordable units. If you want to qualify for an exemption, you got to do X, Y, Z. And I think that's the responsible thing to do. But right now, we got to make sure that in a time when renters are being squeezed out, in a
Okay.
time when inflation is hitting everyone,
Boyce,
that we're protecting all of our renters.
Boyce.
Our neighborhoods, we've talked a lot about downtown. I want to talk about our neighborhoods, specifically Uptown, and we'll start with you, Brenda. Uptown is suffering. One of the reasons Uptown is suffering is because private capital has decided not to invest in our neighborhoods. And one of the reasons is because private capital that was there left, including Target. Even public resources like closing a transit station left. How do you ensure that private capital can and will invest in our neighborhoods? And what would be your vision to make sure that happens in Uptown?
First, I would reach out to those people who have left our community and bring them a new vision. Because the new vision is most of them left because it became unsafe. And that is a problem. And the second point is those small businesses needed to thrive and needed to help. Many of our constituents, not mayor, but others, did not support their own community. We have 13 city councils who take it on that could support our small businesses, but they chose to fixate on their own background, and Uptown was one of them. I believe that we need to start looking into all our city officials to see if they're supporting our small businesses to stay in our city. And that is my answer. Thank you.
Dwayne Davis, how would you make sure that people can thrive in our neighborhoods, not just downtown?
I thank you for asking that. I live in North Minneapolis, and one of my walking routes is West Broadway. And one of the most disheartening things is to walk that route and see boarded up buildings and vacant lots. And again, I go back to this point where we often promote and market this city as if there are only a few places to go. It is downtown or even uptown. But this is the point I think we need to look at, the asset that this entire city is. West Broadway, to take, for instance, is a wonderful place for someone, especially for a small parcel or for foot traffic. These are the kinds of things that we need to be promoting. But even when we are trying to attract very large corporations, one of the things that we should be pointing out as an asset is local business, different neighborhoods. How can you help us meet our targets for bringing some small business into your supply chain or into your vendor network? This city is a full canvas for that kind of interest for people, large corporations, and all for small entrepreneurs.
Senator Fate, capital is mobile, and local capital and national capital has not invested in our neighborhoods over the last 5 years. How do you reattract private capital to our neighborhoods?
Well, number one, I think this is still a city responsibility to invest in our neighborhoods. That's number one. But number two, the way to do that is to make sure that we're listening to the people. What I've been hearing from the people is that they want our streets to be safer. They want Uptown to be safer. They want to make sure that we are more accessible, making sure that whether folks want to walk, bike, ride the transit, take the bus, that we are a city that connects everyone in every mode of transportation.
How?
Well, a number of ways. Number one, I support 24-hour bus lanes on Hennepin. That's something that the city council supported and the mayor did not. He vetoed. I want to make sure that when we talk about safety, also we talk about safety not in terms of violence, but in terms of for our pedestrians and our bikers. That means investing more in traffic calming. I was honored to partner with Councilmember Koski just this past year at the Capitol to bring in $1 million in traffic calming funding. We partnered with Senator Dibble as the chair. So those are ways we can approach it cross-jurisdictionally to achieve real wins for our city.
Jazz Hampton, how do you ensure that private money moves into our neighborhoods?
We need to make it more attainable and to repair trust with those private dollars that are looking to do this. Listen, I've built a business in this city for the last 5 years. And when I talk to, for instance, restaurant owners in these business corridors, whether we're talking about 38th and Grand or on West Broadway, What I'm hearing is we're nervous because some of the policies and practices that are in place now don't make me trust that I will be successful if I move in here. When I talked to a restaurant owner that said the entire front street of their restaurant was tore up for they said it was going to be 6 weeks, and the construction took 6 months. They had to take out a second loan to keep their business afloat.
How do you ensure that that changes?
When we're going and we're doing these projects and we make promises to businesses that are basing their financial choices on the promises we make, we have to have a side of money that says if it's going to go from 6 months or 6 weeks to 6 months, we can supplement some of this with incentive dollars from our city if we told you a promise and we broke that promise. Those are things that we can do specifically, along with, as I said previously, improving the time on permitting and inspections as well.
Mayor, you've been mayor while some of these neighborhoods, including Uptown, have suffered. How do you make sure that in a third term that you can revitalize these neighborhoods?
Well, let's talk honestly about this. In revitalizing these neighborhoods, you need small businesses, including restaurants. And getting restaurants to succeed, part of what you got to do is listen to them. They opposed, these small and local restaurants, opposed an unbalanced labor standards board. I was willing to support one that was balanced. The one that was put forward was not. I believe virtually every other candidate has supported that very labor standards board that those restaurants opposed. But moreover, in Uptown, there is a bright future and a rebirth of Uptown that is coming and will be dramatically different from what it was before. There's 2 promises that I'm going to make. One, right now and even in the next few months, people will see the seeds of progress in Uptown in the form of small local business openings. And when you do, go there. Second, in the next few months, you're not going to be satisfied yet. There is a brilliant future of Uptown. We're all going to be part of it, and we're going to be talking about that renaissance in 10 years from now.
Okay, I'd like the 2 elected officials in the middle. We're getting close on time.
15
here.
minutes
15 minutes left, 15 to go. Let's talk about ethics and fraud. This is on all of our minds. Daily, monthly, weekly, we hear a new instance of fraud in healthcare, in nutrition, in housing, autism centers. There's ties to Minneapolis in a lot of these. So first, Senator Fate, what about some of the ethical questions raised about legislation possibly benefiting your wife? Could you clear that instance of ethical questions up?
Absolutely. That was a false story in which we connected with every single media outlet that reached out to us, providing them with the facts. My wife started a business in 2021 that never operated, that never functioned, that never built.
Could the legislation have benefited her?
Absolutely not. It could not have benefited her, number one. Number two, it had nothing to do with making more money or lining the pockets of anyone. What I heard from providers and what I heard from DHS themselves is that HSS is rampant with fraud. They were concerned with that. This was actually an accountability bill to make sure that we take the issue away from DHS, who has proven not to be able to address fraud, and put it in the hands of the county case managers. Because I heard stories as the Vice Chair of Human Services of people billing not only for clients they don't serve, but for dead clients. And so we had the opportunity to make sure that we address it in a way in which we actually end it rather than letting it persist.
What about connections to elections, malfeasance? What do you have to say about that in the past?
Well, every single ethics issue that you're mentioning right now and every single ethics issue that came up at the Capitol were Republican-led. Those are Republican-led ethics issues.
What about ties to your
and that
campaign
also, and that ties to the
elections
campaign
issue?
came from a Project Veritas video that was a right-wing attack talking about ballot harvesting and voter fraud. Now, with that, I also I was also working with the Senate to address
harvesting or fraud.
Absolutely not, and we addressed that in the ethics committee.
Okay.
And by the way, it was a Republican-led ethics committee that cleared me of all wrongdoing.
Thank
and
you.
so
Okay.
every single issue, every single
Yep.
time. No, but the unfortunate situation is that these kind of lies, when they persist, these right-wing attacks, people get hurt. And it's unfortunate that we have DFLers, especially from the mayor's team and the mayor's PACs, that have been using this, spreading misinformation in the media, which lead to things like vandalism, which lead to things like people getting shot and killed. So these actions and these lies have real-life consequences,
Mayor,
especially on people of color, which every single one of these challenges look like me.
Mr. Mayor, I want you to respond to that. But also, you had ties to Feeding Our Future on your staff. Can you respond to both of those?
The minute we found out about that staffer, he was fired. I can't speak to the concerns
What about
surrounding the ethics.
misinformation? Are you creating misinformation and attacks on your opponent?
No. Senator Fate, feel free to give me one instance where I have spread misinformation about your ethics concerns that have been set up, and I'm happy to respond to it. In fact, you know very well that immediately after you have been attacked on several occasions, and unfairly so, whether it was by Charlie Kirk or just the other day, I gave you a call to offer every single bit of assistance that the Minneapolis Police Department and beyond would be able to provide. Look, here's the thing. We're in an election now. So obviously there's politics back and forth. I stand by everything that I've said myself. And at the same time, we need to be standing up for each other. And although Senator Fate and I have some significant disagreements around policy, he's a father. He is a public servant. He's someone that cares about government. And when any of us are attacked in that form, we all need to be standing up and speaking out.
Okay, and he would like to speak on that.
Absolutely, and I want to say what the mayor just said is false. Yes, we reached out to both MPD and the chief yesterday when our office was vandalized, but it took 4.5, almost 5 hours for them to respond. That's when I got a call from the mayor. That's when I got a call from the police chief. But also, those kind of acts are a direct result of these right-wing attacks in which the mayor is trying to deny, but his staff and his PACs that are defending him and supporting him have been persistently and consistently spreading these lies through ads, investing hundreds of thousands of dollars, in which, by the way, we want to talk about ethics. We had the mayor's former campaign manager, who's leading one of the PACs, fail to disclose over $100,000 in donations. I think that's unethical and that's wrong.
We only have 10 minutes left, and you have a minute for closing statements. So we have 5 minutes of other issues. We're going to have a little lightning round. Starting with you, Brenda, we'll go right down the line. In 2 words, describe your leadership style.
Strong and willing to listen. I'm sorry.
You can hyphenate
Brenda.
it.
Go ahead, Jazz.
Inclusive and pragmatic.
Mayor?
Passionate and honest.
Senator?
Bold and collaborative.
Dwayne?
Increasing capacity.
This race has been seen insider versus outsider. How do you describe yourself, insider or outsider?
That's odd.
So is politics.
I'm a minister, so I have to say outsider.
Outsider? Senator?
Being a state senator, naturally an insider, but fighting as an outsider.
Mr. Mayor?
Look, I'm the mayor of Minneapolis, and the last thing I just said was honest, so I got to go insider.
Okay, that was a layup. Next.
Outsider, as a business owner, lawyer, and professor, I am not in politics right now.
Brenda?
Outsider, I'm a community member.
One of the dynamics that was promoted when Minneapolis went to ranked choice voting was that campaigns would be less negative, that people would be more positive. It has been clear in this campaign that 3 candidates have chosen to campaign against 1 candidate. Do you support the continuation of ranked choice voting in the city of Minneapolis? Yes or no? Brenda Short.
Yes, no, or maybe.
No,
maybe we'll give you a maybe.
Maybe. Can I go with a maybe?
Sorry, boys. I'm nicer than you.
I would argue with the premise of the question or the as it was stated, but I would say yes, I absolutely support ranked choice.
Mr. Mayor, yes?
Yes.
Senator?
Yes, and I've supported statewide legislation for
Dwayne?
ranked choice.
Yes.
All right, how do you describe yourself politically? Not just Democrat, progressive, do you like socialist? What word? Give yourself a word on the political spectrum where you describe yourself.
Pragmatic.
Bold.
Where's bold on the political spectrum?
It could be on the right or the left. You can use it for good or evil, and I try to use it for good.
Just following up. How do you describe, Mr. Mayor?
Pragmatic, progressive.
Jazz?
Realistic leader.
Brenda?
Problem solver.
We are coming to the end, and each candidate will have a 1-minute closing statement. Before we give their closing statements, I want to thank Mary. I want to thank the Citizens League, the Downtown Council, and the Minneapolis Regional Chamber of Commerce, as well as Centerpoint Energy. This has been a lively discussion, and that was our goal. And we'll start with you, Dwayne. 1 minute closing statement.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for being here. And I just want to start off by saying, contrary to what it may have seemed like, this is indeed a multi-candidate race for ranked choice. And so I reject, and I want you to reject, the idea that there is a binary between two people. I think some of the questions, it appears that way. And I just think it's important for you to know that and understand that. But I won't just tell you, listen, we are in a new political age. It is a very challenging political age, not only because we have some challenges as a major city, but also we have the challenge of a federal government that is illiberal and autocratic and has determined that it is not going to work with us. So we need new leadership. We have, as a city, an abundance of riches. That means that we have the ability to stand against what's going on in Washington, but also solve our problems. But we need new leadership to do it. And I'm offering that leadership. We can do this. We can do better. We deserve better. And I think you can join me in making that effort happen.
Senator Fate.
Jacob Frey has been mayor now for nearly 8 years, for 2 terms. All vetoes, full of vetoes, and a more divided government and city than ever before. He lied about banning no-knock warrants, and Amir Locke died. He lied about there only being 27 unhoused neighbors, and we know that was not true. He lied about ending homelessness within 5 years. Now there's more unhoused neighbors than when he first took office. He lied when he said he'd stand with our Uber and Lyft drivers, and then he vetoed their bill. He lied when he said he'll support labor and our labor unions, and then he vetoed the Labor Standards Board. And he lied when he said he'll stand up to Donald Trump when he let MPD collaborate with ICE. Those are all lies. Myself, I've worked not only with the progressive wing and the Blue Dogs, but with Republicans to pass bold, progressive, transformational pieces of legislation. So please, I hope to earn your first choice vote. Rank Dwayne and Jazz, fill your ballot, because now more than ever, Minneapolis needs a leader and not a liar.
Mr. Mayor, rebuttal and close, please.
Do I get extra time on the rebuttal?
We'll see.
Changes
I'll
my
give you,
answer.
I'll give you 10 of my seconds.
Changes my answer a bit here.
See, there is coordination.
You know, as mayor, you make difficult decisions during some of the most trying of circumstances. And over the past 5 years, especially, we in this city have confronted adversity together. And our city is coming back, and this city right now is faced with a choice between a path that puts slogans and social media posts before solutions, and the other path that values delivering results for our city. I have always chosen the latter. I have always chosen to do the right thing by our city, even and especially when it's hard. And so, we have a lot of work to do around housing, making sure that we're expanding our Stable Homes, Stable Schools program, and making sure that more people have the right to a home. We need to be expanding our police department to make sure that we have the most diverse police department in history and continue down the path to fighting crime, keeping people safe, and providing a comprehensive strategy for safety. We need to make sure that we're working on affordability, and we've got reasonable and pragmatic budgeting to ensure that both rents stay down as well as taxes, and we have a great opportunity to work together as a city. Not throw jabs, not call names, but do right by Minneapolis.
Jazz?
When I announced that I was running in late January, I put out a video and I said, I'm not running against anyone, I'm running for the city. For far too long, when you're opening the newspaper or reading it online, it feels like you're reading about conflicts within city leadership rather than the progress that we could be making within the city. I am so proud to say that I'm going to be a mayor that unifies this city and moves us forward. I'm not saying that folks haven't been working incredibly hard. I'm just saying it's time for a new chapter in the city of Minneapolis. And we can have someone that will be the first mayor in 25 years to have children in the Minneapolis public schools. All 3 of my children are in them. We can have a mayor that has built and run a business in this city, a mayor that has been a lawyer within this city and has been actively understanding how to use the law as the tool. We have an opportunity to start a new chapter in Minneapolis. And when you go and vote this year and you're fully ranking your ballot, this is what I hope for you. I hope you're stepping into that ballot box and saying, I am excited to be voting right now. I'm not voting against someone. I'm voting for the vision of a candidate that I saw on stage. And I hope that I am your first rank in that situation. I would be honored to earn it. And thank you very much for coming today.
Brenda Short.
Thank you. I'm a community member that takes this job seriously. Unlike 3 men who think they are selling Girl Scout cookies and knocking doors together, this job is one leader. So I am the one leader that you need. So on November 4th, vote Brenda Short, not once, not twice, but 3 times on November 4th. You have a nice day.
I want to just close by saying that this has been a civil, lively, and engaged debate. It did not include hate, and it did not include violence. And those are the kinds of discussions that Minnesota should be known for, things that the Citizens League has led for many years, and we should all be proud of that. So with that, thank the candidates and thank you all for attending and watching.